Howdy, folks. Back here today to talk to you a little bit about my thoughts on small art. Um, this is a topic that I don't have a fully, formed thesis on, but I do believe in strongly, and I think it's definitely worth talking about and bringing awareness to, uh, or at least giving some words to. Maybe I'm not bringing awareness to anything, but maybe to some I am. Uh, in my universe, in Nashville, Tennessee, in independent music in 2025, there is a fair amount of what I would call um, small art or small music. Uh, you know, small bands, maybe is a good way to say it. Small artists. People who you know, are trying to make their first ever projects, but also people who have been making projects for a long time and have been moving in the same direction for a long time, but have maybe not grown in size. Not because of the project not being, good, not because of the art not being good, but maybe because they're committed to their craft and they know, and they're in a niche that is not perceivable by the masses. Um, the reason I want to talk about that today is because these projects have had a great impact on my life, and I am grateful for these projects. Um, all the while, I am also an artist, and I am also a person trying to make it, so to speak, which feels, in some senses, like it is in stark contrast to some of these small artists that I am bearing witness to. They are not necessarily always trying to make it, and they know almost for a fact that they won't make it. Yet they still stay true and they stay in one direction. They keep putting one foot in front of the other. Um, and I feel indebted to them as an artist trying to make it, because there's a high degree of inspiration for me that comes from going to see those artists play shows, or seeing those artists out in the world and asking them what they're up to, and them saying that they're continuing in their way of creating and making and staying hyper focused on their niche. Um, and I think a lot of artists probably feel that way. A lot of people trying to make it, a lot of people maybe trying to make something a little more mainstream, would probably say that there's some unknown, unspoken of artist that has inspired them in some way. Um, and I think that's important. And I just wanted to say, if you are a small artist, um, thank you. And if you are a person encouraged by a small artist, maybe let them know and tell them, thank you for doing what you're doing. I wouldn't call them small. I wouldn't come out right and say that. But, you know, you could just thank them for their witness. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to do here today, and just make note of, is like, there's just so much good small art that I think is worth existing, that I think people pay through the nose to keep making. They have part-time jobs, they have full-time jobs, and still make art. People like John Ringhofer of Half-Handed Clout. Hearing some of his story about working at a high school or a school and being a janitor and continuing to make albums on tape, and working releasing on vinyl. And I can't imagine what it would cost time-wise, and the sacrifices that it takes to do that kind of thing. And that's why I try and pay my dues when I can, and pay my tithe, if you will, to those projects, and go see those bands at small venues and remember what it feels like to be in those rooms and bear witness to stuff that is, it's solid, it's true, it's authentic, it's quite emotional. It might not be easily perceived by a mass of people, but it is still important. And I don't know, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that today and say good on you if that is you. Thank you if that is you. And if it could be you, and if you're saying to yourself, I want to make something, but I know that it has no audience, maybe still make it. That's kind of what I'm talking about, is people who have said that they maybe know that that's true and they've decided to still create. I think it can do great good for your soul. I think it might even do great good for some people around you if you can get to a point where you feel comfortable sharing it. Making and creating, I believe, is what we're called to. And at least in some way in this time on earth, I think we're supposed to be making and creating and kind of carrying on in that tradition. And I'm encouraged when I see people doing that. And I'm especially encouraged when I see people doing it to a degree that requires them to sacrifice something. So that is what I have to say today, folks. Thanks for being here, for listening. Let me know if you have any thoughts about any of this. Drop me a like if you enjoy it, and subscribe if you want to hear more stuff like this. So thanks for being here. Peace.